What up, perps? Kid Copious back in the bunker. Purple State Party. You know what we're trying to do here? We're trying to rep America, the center, and common sense. So let's keep on popping in the free world. Let's do everything we can to keep our free world. You know, I want to kick this off, man. I've started to notice some upticks in viewers. You know, I appreciate y'all. I love you all, man. I'm not here to simply bag on one side. I'm trying to tear down some bad ideas. I'm trying to point out that both sides have some right answers and some wrong answers, and some right ways of going about things and some wrong ways about going about things. You know, myself, you know, I go after the left right now because I think that they are really fueling a lot of the bad policies that we have in America. And I think they need to be taken down. When the Republicans pipe up again, you know, I'll be going after them. You know, I myself, you know, I use a metal straw. I've been recycling my whole life. My dad used to take me golfing. I wouldn't golf. I would get out and get cans out of the trash can. That's who I am. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a reformed criminal. Almost all of my pets have either come directly from the streets or from the pound. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm saying that because I want you to know who I am. I'm somebody who cares. I am a fervent defender of the Second Amendment. But you know what? As much as I would defend my rifle or my pistol, that's how much I'm going to defend two men's rights to get married and adopt a child. Two women, two non-binary people. My world, through my daughter especially, is filled with people who are non-binary and who are trans. And I support them. She has a friend who's trans who takes in animals. And whenever I get bonuses at work, I pass those bonuses on to him so that he can afford to rescue more puppies. Because I care about the world. I care about what's going on with pollution on a worldwide level. But where I disagree with the left is the way they're going about it. Today's shirt, medicinal marijuana is not a crime. It's a throwback to the old days when I used to have to go to a doctor to get a note. And as we're going to see, we had a good thing in that because legalization didn't really work out too well. But we've got a lot to get to. So, you know, hey, again, big thanks to you guys. I love you. Let's get the show rolling. All right, we'll start off, as we usually do, talking about the title of the episode, which I'm conveniently covering with my ugly mug. The Hamster Wheel of Desire. This goes back to what I was just saying. You know, I really object to the way we're going about things. We're running around in circles trying to achieve this goal. In this case, as you can see, you know, apparently this guy is using a hamster wheel to power his electric vehicle. And that's what we're seeing in California. You know, we have these lofty goals, which are great, but we don't have a plan. And like I said in a previous episode, you know, a goal without a plan is a dream. You know, if that doesn't make sense to you, you know, dreams are dreams. They're not real. They're not achievable a lot of times, you know. But goals, you know, with a plan, that's achievable. You know, let's not bankrupt our society. Let's not tear down our society to make changes. That's just ignorant. You know, we're going to see some examples of that throughout the show. And that's what I'm really trying to get across to people is that it's okay to believe in what you believe in, but how do we go about it? You know, in some cases, like I mentioned earlier, gay marriage, you know, you could pass a law, boom, done. You know, that's easy. But a lot of our goals are not easy. But we got to kick off the week. The critique of the week, I guess. There we go. Look at me. Look at me. I'm learning how to work my controls. And now for some reason, I have some sort of double image here. That's odd. But we all know the Queen of England died. You know, and, you know, she wasn't my queen, so, you know, how much can I really go into it? I can't say it really affected me. I always smiled when I saw her. I like old ladies who have survived a long time. You know, they've got something to offer. Let's see. Let's get rid of that photo. There we go. Oh, wow. That's really, I don't know what I just did, folks. You could see it. It's just a big giant mess down here for me. There we go. I think we're back on track. We are not anywhere near on track, are we? Whatever. Queen kept working till the end, and she appointed the new prime minister just 2 days before she died. And that's what I'm saying. This lady just kept on kicking. But one of the things that I saw, I love this photo bomb. One of the things that I saw that really was pissing me off was how, in amongst all the stories about her passing, they brought up all the old crap, the old bigotry, the old colonies and colonization and all that crap, and we do the same thing here in America. We did the same thing with our founding fathers. Oh, the USA is bad. They had slavery. But we went to war to free them. But then when it comes to our current politicians, do we remember those promises that were broken? Do we remember the lies? I mean, sometimes it's just flat out lies. And selective enforcement of morals and passing those morals back through history is not only wrong, but stupid. And it doesn't really help anything. It doesn't change anything to point out what people did wrong in the past when those problems have been corrected. But with the current politicians, I think it's vital that we remember what they said 2 years ago or even 10 years ago. Whether it's the lies that Biden has been telling or the questionable tactics of Trump, those things are wrong, and those people should be held accountable for those things. Thomas Jefferson, he can't defend himself. Thomas Jefferson can't do anything to change history at this point. He's dead and buried. He's worm food. But people like Ted Cruz, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, and countless more need to be held accountable. But you see one side that selectively enforces their morals, where they talk about how bad America is because we used to have slavery, but they just allow people to lie constantly over and over and over again. I mean, they want to go off on Trump for inciting a riot, but not Maxine Waters. And vice versa. Let's keep in mind, this is a vice versa game we're playing here, folks. It is both. It is both sides. You can't say that Trump did not pick his words poorly and then say, well, Maxine Waters did, or Maxine Waters was fine and Trump wasn't, whatever. The politicians need to be held accountable for their lies and shitty behavior. And when, somebody like the Queen passes and all we want to do is talk about history, not helpful. All right, we're going to move right off the sad stories into the fun stories, I guess. Ukrainian hackers created fake profiles of attractive women to trick Russian soldiers into sharing their location. Days later, the base was blown up. Dude, men be so thirsty that they'll give up their positions. And they got, they got literally smoked, That's the fun part about this whole thing. They literally got smoked. Look at me fixing things. Yeah, I don't have a team. It's just me. And, I'm competent at what I do for a living, but not so competent at recording. Oh, man, can you imagine this? Oh, yes, I want to see pictures of your boobies. And the next thing you know, there's a Hellfire missile raining down on you. Oh, fucking awesome. So we had last week's debacle with Biden, Nikki Haley, a Republican who served under Trump, brings up the fact that Joe Biden's done nothing to unite the nation. And this goes back to what I'm saying. Are we going to hold people accountable for these broken promises? He didn't unite anybody. Elizabeth Warren wants your credit card company to report gun purchases, which is just, again, see, this is the thing. Like, you want to stamp out guns? Let's start with illegal guns first. We'll see more about that later. But her plan won't accomplish anything. It won't stop mass shootings. People can buy things with cash. People can buy things off the streets. So, yeah, you could just get around this whole credit card thing. But again, it's just them imposing their authoritarian way of thinking onto Americans. They're not worried about the gun crimes. Look at some of the DAs. They don't even prosecute gun crimes. They don't even use gun enhancements. But they want to go after people who buy a rifle for hunting. That's what they want to go after. Again, it seems like they're going after the easy target, but not the effective target. And speaking of effective, Kevin Kiley here. Gavin Newsom has now increased homeless spending to 28 times what it was when he took office. And they're trying to pass an amendment a proposition to allow online gambling to further fund the homelessness complex, industrial complex, so to speak. But nothing has been done. All of that money has only attracted more homeless people here. And while we're on that subject, I think it's time that we start differentiating between homeless and voluntarily homeless, because there are a lot of people who literally put themselves in that position because they're slaves to drugs and alcohol. Something I know a lot about. I know about sleeping under bridges, and I know how you get out of it. You get arrested, and the judge tells you you either go to jail or you go to rehab. This is a Democrat who said that Biden's comments on the MAGA Republicans was painting too broad a brush. Yeah, I voted for Trump. I don't support anything on the extremes, right or left. So no, I don't support going backwards. Whatever, Roe versus Wade, whatever, man. Whatever. But the states didn't need to pass those laws. And if they think that they're going to take their crusade further and try to end gay marriage or any of that xenophobic, homophobic, any of that bullshit, I'm going to fight them tooth and nail. Liza Fletcher, she was the big story this week. It's really weird when you hear a story like that and you hope that she's being kidnapped for ransom. But unfortunately, she wasn't. She was kidnapped, more than likely violently raped and murdered, and then left naked or half naked in a field. And of course, being that she was a white woman, the media picked up the story and ran with it. And that's, the media likes to spit stories at us about equity and equality and all that shit. But they still want to sell newspapers, so they're going to run with the white woman. They don't give a shit about the black girl that may have disappeared, the Hispanic girl that may have disappeared now. But the white woman, yeah, we're going after that. But that, they should all be covered. None of them should be ignored. And unfortunately, this lovely woman, who was a school teacher and a mother of, I believe, 2, she ended her life in one of the most vile ways possible. And it was because of some fuckwad who's been in trouble since he was 11. I'm covering it up again with my screen. You'll just have to take my word for it. But by the time he was 16, he was in jail for rape. Somehow he got out, and at 19, he kidnapped a businessman and threatened to kill him unless he turned over his ATM card and PIN number. And yet, he was, 11 years old. Look at that. But he was let out. Look at his file. He had no suicidal gestures, medical problems, or mental illness. He was listed, though, as 100% violent. That's why we have 3 strikes laws. I don't care how much it costs to keep somebody in prison. I don't care how many prisons we have to build. People like this guy should not be on the streets. We should not be sacrificing the life of a school teacher for that of a career criminal. And that's what we're seeing. I'm a product of creative ways of applying the law. I'm on the right track in life because a judge showed me mercy. And I rewarded his mercy by completely going clean. Quit the drinking, quit the crime, quit the meth, quit the crime. See, that works. But that was my second chance in life. That wasn't my 26th. That wasn't my 14th chance. I wasn't convicted of violent crimes. I wasn't convicted of doing anything that would have led to somebody's death or emotional scarring. But they're applying these second chances to people who don't deserve them. Whoa, a lot of consonants there. Okay. Well, anyhow, the Dutch agricultural minister resigned after mass farmers' protests. The truth of that one kind of is more along the lines of he wasn't extreme enough, so they're going to replace him with somebody that's more extreme. And somebody pointed that out, and this dude here, Dragon Bow, back and said, then fight them too. You think they're going to make this easy for you? No, they're not. They're not going to make this easy. This person says, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm out of here. Within short notice, fuck this country. And that's what a lot of people, including my brother. My brother says that. He supports the most liberal of policies and then finishes the conversation by saying, it doesn't matter anyhow because I'm moving to Panama. Okay. So you're going to fuck up the U.S. and then leave when the U.S. is fucked up? No, I'm staying to fight. And the same thing goes for California. I'll keep fighting for California. This is where I was born. This is where my heart lies. This is where my soul lies. This is where I hope to be cremated and spread along the coastline of this state that I love. But it's almost impossible now. But I'm going to keep fighting. I'll just keep fighting until the day I die. Because, like Dragon says here, at some point you turn and fight or you run until you die. That's it. And it's the same thing for the planet. We have to save the planet, but we have to do it the right way. Also in Memphis, we have this guy Ezekiel Kelly, who, again, lengthy criminal history, 19 years old, goes out on a shooting spree and puts it up on Facebook. But where's all the indignation? Where's all the rhetoric about guns? Where's Biden going and shining a spotlight on it? Nowhere, because it doesn't fit the narrative. We're not running a country on narratives. Narratives are worthless. This does not align with their left-wing political narratives. Okay? It's not about him being black. It's about him not being white. If he was white and did it, then they would take shots at the NRA. But this punk probably bought his gun on the streets. Government and their misinformation. The feds are reeling from a new vax study and lawsuits on social media censorship and COVID stat manipulation. Wow, what a fucking shocker. We're really supposed to be shocked about this, that they stamped out dissenting COVID claims. And part of the problem, as you can see, 45 different federal officials colluded with social media companies to drive their narrative. Again, the narrative. Who gives a shit what the results are, right? Oh, it's all about the narrative. It's all about the narrative. The results, well, I don't know. I don't know, Marty. I'd say they were talking about the study, and this one study estimated that out of these 22,000 previously unaffected adults aged 18 to 29, that they needed to be boosted with a vaccine to prevent one hospitalization while causing 18 to 98 serious adverse events. So without the vaccine, the adverse event would be one hospitalization. Metal straws, bitches. But 18 to 98, again, it's not worth it. Dr. Drew, who I listen to and sort of idolize, I guess, because he's a wise man and he's got a logical brain going on, talks about how all medicine is bad. You know? All medicine is bad, and you need to look at the risk to reward. And seeing the risk to reward on COVID is alarming. You know, if more damage is going to be done by the vaccine than lives saved, then what's the point? Fortunately, we have some breakthroughs now that are allowing us to fight COVID, and maybe we won't have to do these vaccinations because, you know, I don't know. I don't have much trust in the the way things are done nowadays. We often simply want to throw out the old and replace it with the new, rather, whether or not the new is good at all. All right, so this is one I teased. This really sickens me. I think we need to pass an amendment stripping Bank of America of the title America. They are hitting PPP borrowers with finance charges. That's the Paycheck Protection Plan. So you have say a bakery and you have to close because your state had a lockdown. This allowed you to continue to pay your employees. It was sort of a form of temporary unemployment. Bank of America pressured people into these things and made them do it through the portal. So, yep, I don't have that part. Go back to that picture, right, this one right here. So Bank of America made you go through the portal. Now, for other people who got these PPP loans, if they were rejected, the government would step in, sort it out, and figure out, well, why was the forgiveness rejected? Bank of America, through their portal, circumnavigated that and simply just said, and by the way, we've been charging you interest since the moment you got the money. And we're going to take giant finance charges. One business owner statement showed $700 from a $2,000 payment. Another person made a $569 payment, and they lost $423 was taken out. Seriously, Bank of America was profiting off of something designed to help American workers. This guy, Mark Cobb here, he was pressured into it because not only the government, Bank of America said, oh, no, it's going to be forgiven. The loan is going to be made into a grant because we're trying to help people. Bank of America turns around and says, F you, we want our money. We're not going to forgive shit. Okay? And when he made his payment, they took that 423 out of the 569, and so he actually paid back 146 towards his principal. It's almost loan sharking. If you do business with Bank of America, just pull out. Just pull out. This is one chance where we have an opportunity to fight back and win against a big corporation. Pull your money out of Bank of America. They're scumbags. Do your research. Make sure I'm correct. Okay? I'm not sitting up here trying to say that I am some sort of lord of information. I may be wrong. I may have interpreted this wrong. But from what I see in black and white, they're scumbags. California, we've had a heat wave. Last week, man, I was sweating like crazy. Spent the last 4 out of 5 days with no AC after 4 o'clock. California had to put up its gas generators. Here's some boring fucking numbers for you. But, we're far from renewable right now. But we're acting that way. We're acting like we're getting all of our money from the sun. And the problem is that we're not. So oftentimes at the last minute, we need to buy power. And we need to buy it at a highly inflated rate. We pay some of the highest rates out of anybody in the United States. We pay double the national average for our electricity because we decided we're going to shut down all of our nuclear power plants because those aren't green enough for the green extremists who are funding Gavin's campaigns and other Democrats' campaigns and have bought California for a shiny nickel. And they want all of the nuclear power gone. But it's not working. There we go. Look. 29 cents a kilowatt, about twice the national average. And one day this year, May 8th, we actually made 100%, actually 103% of the electricity that we needed. Because solar doesn't work at night. So their solutions, big giant batteries. We don't have enough resources to make all the car batteries. We're now going to make giant batteries. I work in fire alarms. I remember going out to Palm Springs out in the desert, and every battery in every panel, every fire panel, was bulged to the point of bursting because of the heat. These are not real solutions, folks. I mean, we could do solar during the day and nuclear at night. Boom. Solution. The state of California has something like $100 billion right now in surplus. Why don't we build some nuclear reactors, lease them out to companies, and build solar farms around those nuclear reactors? And when we can finally start going to solar, we could then lease those solar plants to those very same companies. And we could close down those reactors. But we're a long ways away from that. As much as we want to be renewable tomorrow, it's not feasible. And we need to face it. And we need to plan for it. The illusion of green energy has already crumbled down in Europe. They're already going back to coal. And their conclusion, much like mine, is nuclear. Yes, nuclear has some drawbacks, but it does not emit carbon. That's not one of them. Polluting the air is not one thing that nuclear power does. Yes, oh, yeah, if it explodes, okay. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of events of that. See, no amount of soaring rhetoric about the virtues of going green or apocalyptic climate preaching can change the fact that wind and solar aren't cut out to power modern industrial societies. They have the studies in Europe, so why don't we learn from that? You know, Confucius said, a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others. We can look to Europe and see what they're doing wrong. We need nuclear to supplement solar. That's clean. I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing is let's stop burning coal and gas to produce electricity. Let's transition to nuclear. But to do that, we're going to need the politicians, especially here in California, to stop being bribed by the radical green energy people. A quarter of California homes had no AC this heat wave. And it could stay that way for years. And you know why? This just talking about some of what people do. Freeze pots of water. I use a water bag. An ice bag. When I go to bed, I just kind of hug it and it keeps me cool. During the daytime, I have a foot bath that I fill with ice, and I keep my feet in ice water. That's how I beat the cold. And all of that water then goes to watering my plants. I'm as green as I can be. But California has a law that requires landlords to maintain temperatures of 70 degrees inside during cold weather. But there's no requirement for AC. And when they try to pass it, it's stalled by opposition from the California Apartment Association. See, the money gets in there and stops. We want to give money in reparations. We want to give money to illegal immigrants. Why are we not giving money to landlords to replace broken ACs? Because it'll kill the grid? This is the worst part right here. An LA Times investigation last year, and now again, these people have a left slant, so they're going to try to prove their point, which is, I don't know, sometimes, undercounts the number of people who die from extreme heat. They have reported 599 deaths between 2010 and 2019. The LA Times thinks that's 6 times higher. People die in the heat, and yet we have no laws that protect renters. And again, who do you think is the most affected by the lack of AC? That's right. The underrepresented neighborhoods, the people of color, the underfunded neighborhoods, poor people, recent immigrants to this country that have come up through the border, right? Those are the people who are going to suffer the most. Not the rich people. Not the people in Beverly Hills or Napa Valley. No. It's going to be the people in the Central Valley. It's going to be the people in the inner cities. And they can't get AC? I don't really know where it is. But instead of passing a bill, we're going to put $5 million to develop recommendations to ensure that residential units can maintain a safe air temperature during the summer. So we're going to study it some more. Just buy the people damn ACs. Just do that. A certain amount of money per landlord, per building, and buy ACs. There's a goddamn solution for you. Okay? I don't want to just sit here and complain and say, oh, look how stupid these people are. I want to show you that there are answers and an idiot like me can come up with them. We have all of this money, $100 billion in surplus. So why are we not providing a program so landlords can get reimbursed for fixing AC or installing ACs? Yeah, it'll crush the grid. I get it. So let's work on developing a solar plan for these ACs. You know, solar panels on top of the building power the ACs during the day, and at night we switch over to nuclear power. This ain't rocket science, okay? You know, I smoked 2 joints in the morning and then solved all of fucking California's problems. Come on, it can't. If it's easy enough for me to come up with these solutions, why are they not? Because they're being paid not to. This is just real quick here, because one thing I've noticed is that in my lifetime, I've seen a lot of new ways of thinking replace old ways of thinking, and they've all failed, and I don't really know where they haven't. You know, artificial sweeteners are horrible for you, but because they're not sugar, that's what we roll with. This whole idea of a compliant media who just gets paid, essentially, to just propagate lies. You're better off eating sugar. That's it. But I guess the sugar industry didn't pay you enough, so you want to go after sugar. Adverse health effects. And it isn't like, you know, like Katie Page here is saying, that the healthiest course of action isn't to opt for regular sugar. It's to cut down the amount of sugar you use, but use sugar. That's the real option. That's what you need to do. And what we're seeing is we have these old laws relating to marijuana and the growing of marijuana, and the new laws. See, when it was medicinal, all the laws remain the same. But when we legalize it for recreational use, we set up weak-ass penalties for illegal cultivation. And what that's allowed is cartels to come into California and divert millions of gallons of water and use chemical fertilizers, including banned and lethal pesticides. I've covered this before, but the outdoors of California is very important to me. The fact that something that I consider sacred, which is weed, okay? Weed is the reason why I'm even alive today. Because I was able to kick all my other drug addictions and just stay high. I stay high all the time. But they're killing bears. They're killing wildlife. They are draining people's wells. They are terrifying local homeowners. And when they finally get caught, they get this little illegal cultivation fine, which is somewhere on par with like selling hot dogs without a license. Folks, we can't blindly just agree with one party. We have to stand up inside that party. There have to be people who stand up and say, this is not what we were asking for. It's easy. We need to shit hammer these people. We need to make illegal grows in California so criminally penalized that people don't want to do it. They go up into the mountains. The law enforcement spread thin and isn't even going to be able to do anything. So if all you're going to do is issue a ticket, why go to the thing? But that is one picture of one area. All of those little purple rectangles are greenhouses growing marijuana. All of those green highlighted areas are just open gardens. Those are huge. Those are sometimes 100-foot long greenhouses. Those are illegal operations. I'm not a big fan of the 30% taxes I have to pay on my legal weed. Not a fan of that, okay? But I would rather pay 30% taxes than support people who are destroying the fucking environment. We're supposed to be saving the environment. We're supposed to be going green, but meanwhile, they're just polluting the shit and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's serious about it. Look, there's a big difference between somebody illegally growing some weed in their house and that shit. And that's what we need to differentiate. We have to differentiate that. Oh, God, Beetlejuice. You bitch. She complains that Texas sent her migrants, and she immediately sends them to the suburbs. And it's a Republican suburb, of course, too. But then she says that Greg Abbott's doing this out of racism. We can't tolerate this stuff. Washington also did it. They're a public emergency over migrant arrivals. And they've gotten somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 migrants in Washington, D.C. Right? And, you know, regardless of the federal response, which I think has been lacking in some respect. Oh, look. So do something about that, Bowser. Stop chasing Mario around and do something about that. Go to your exalted leader, Lord High Biden, and let him know, dude, close the goddamn border. Right there, she says it again. The crisis at the border is not lessening. It's getting worse. Then address that. It's not Abbott's fault. We're going to spend, California's going to spend $5 million to study if we should make ACs a law in California so people don't die of the heat or suffer. I mean, imagine you've spent all day driving a forklift around a warehouse so that somebody could get a fucking chicken coop in Houston. And then when you go home, you got no AC because your landlord won't fix it. And the state of California has the money and the power to fix it. Why aren't they fixing it? But they're going to put $10 million to figure out how to deal with this. And they should. They should. As Abbott points out, Abbott pointed this out, that Adams talked about being a sanctuary city, welcoming illegal immigrants with warm hospitality. But when they show up, they bitch and complain. The border is not Texas's problem. The border is the United States' problem. And they should be distributing these people. But not the way Biden was doing it, flying them out at night. Remember, Biden flew them around the country. Everybody cheered. Yay. Joe's doing something. But then when Abbott does it, he's a racist. No, folks. That is not a way to run a country. Now, I vehemently disagree with Abbott. I think he's a fucking asshole, all right? Telling people, well, hey, if you get raped, take Plan B, but you can't get an abortion? Oh, that's some fucking bullshit. But here, I do give him his props. Because this problem either needs to be ended with the border getting a little tighter and rules and regulations getting a little tighter, or it's a share the wealth thing. Portland residents, oh God, these liberal cities. People are having to leave Portland because, as this guy says, I think the problems are so big they want to hold on to their woke ideologies to the point that they're sacrificing actual public safety. They are. These are meant. Like my daughter brought something up about this, that like the Democrats don't support death penalties for killers and rapists, but love to send death threats to political rivals and to anyone who dares challenge their utopian fantasy. They even went as far in Portland as to lock cops in a building and try to set it on fire. But those same people are against the death penalty. Come on, sync your shit up, man. You cannot expect the average citizen to have to live with these. These are not homeless people. Again, we're going to this. These are voluntary. These are homeless people by choice. They want to just do their drugs. And they've burned through every family member and every friend they ever had. Because who wants to take in your cousin who's a violent drunk? No, they end up on the streets. And then they're there. So do something about it, California. You don't want to send them to prison? How about a rehabilitation? Let's just call it a rehabilitation camp. Let's just go full fucking that way. Where maybe you get these people help, you get these people training, you get these people back on a normal footing, and then maybe they could return to wherever they came from and rejoin their friends and family and say, hey brother, sorry I snapped and and got so violent with you in front of your family, but I've cleaned up my act, and I just, I need a place to stay until I can get back on my feet. Let's give these people the opportunity to earn a second chance. But no, we're just going to leave them out on the streets to shit in the streets. And what does that end up with? San Francisco's about to spend $14 billion to try to clean up an algae bloom that is causing thousands of dead fish to wash ashore. And it's human waste. It's not climate change. It's fucking human waste. The algae feeds off certain proteins, and it fuels the bloom. The bloom. The bloom is toxic, and it kills fish. Ugh. So the very same people who are all for the environment and sacrificing everything for the environment are just going to allow shit to kill all the fish. And that's why this one comes up. Student loan forgiveness and other stupid democratic policies just blowing up in their face. It's not, wow, look, see, I told you were wrong. It's so frustrating because they're not learning from their mistakes. They're not seeing that although they may have some really worthwhile goals, their plans are just shit or non-existent. That's all I ask, man. Come on. These are the best of the week. Mostly from the Bee, because I find the Bee to be so fucking funny. Gavin Newsom now running ads in Florida and other states where people can still turn on their TVs. Powerless figurehead leader with no official responsibility still alive. Yeah, kind of a jab at the Queen. Daredevil thanks God he's blind after learning She-Hulk twerked with Megan Thee Stallion. I don't think it's but whatever. But yeah, after Obi-Wan, man, I pretty much lost all faith in Disney. They've destroyed my childhood. They really have. Newsom promises there will be enough electricity for all of California after everyone moves to Florida. Oh, God. Biden says he worked in the civil rights movement, and one time they even let him man the firehouse. Fucking dark humor, man. California government recommends purchasing a giant hamster wheel to charge your electric car. See, that's the cart before the horse that I always talk about. If we're going to have these electric vehicles, which are bad for the environment, bad for everyone because they've got a whole host of problems. But do we come up with a plan on how we're going to charge these cars and how we're going to provide the energy to charge these cars? No. And his nitwit, Newsom, he came out and he said, we're going to go all electric. Then the next day he said, hey, don't charge your electric vehicles at night when you're not using them because we don't have enough power. And then when he was asked about that, he says, oh, well, electric vehicles in California only use like 0.04% of the grid. Then why can't people charge them? But this guy also then turns around and says, yeah, well, when it's all completed in 2035, it'll only be about 4%. I don't know where he gets his numbers. I think he's just pulling them out of his ass. But again, if that's what we need to do for the environment, fine, great. All right, I guess I'm going to be driving an electric car. But under the current plan, I don't see how it's going to be affordable or even possible. Because there is no plan. It's just, that's what we're going to do. Okay, can we just, no. Coach stubbornly ignores man yelling, call a timeout at his TV. Yeah, NFL's back, man, which means fantasy football's back, which means your boy's already, I drafted the rookie running back from the Washington, whatever they are, the Washington Commanders. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're going to suck either way. And I can't remember the kid's name. I feel bad right now. But 3 hours after I drafted him, he was shot in a carjacking in D.C. Not his fault. It's not something he was involved in. I kept him on the team. I put him on my IR. But yeah, football season's back. So watch this spot to see what kind of catastrophe befalls me. All right, well, let's wrap this sucker up. All right. So, there's been a lot of talk about heat waves across America, coming to California, not enough AC in California. And, I'm a big fan still of the Kevin and Bean show. It's off the air, but I listen to recorded captures that I have from the past. And I was listening to one from 2019, and they were talking about a heat wave that was so brutal on the East Coast that it was causing horse manure to explode. And I thought, yeah, 2022 might be just a big old bag of fucking fun, but at least we don't got exploding manure. But, I started off this show kind of by talking about who I was, what I represent, and, not trying to take shots at any particular side. I'm just trying to unravel their stupidity. And one of the stupidities that we saw when it came to COVID was the fact that the then President Trump wanted to keep schools open. So the blue areas immediately closed all their schools. And we're now finding the harm that was done to children, say, here in California, was unfixable. The mental conditions, the rates of suicide just jumped. Kids are now graduating and they don't even know the subjects that they got A's in. And when they did a survey about the satisfaction with public schools for 2020 and 2021, 57% of Democrats were happy, while only 30% of Republicans were. Republicans were pissed off about CRT, but 57% of Democrats were happy with the way public schools were closed. So are you happy that they were closed, or are you just simply agreeing with your side? Stop agreeing with your side. Like I said earlier, it's the start of the football season. My Patriots, right there you go, the Patriots, Bill Belichick might decide to go for a run when I think he goes for a pass, and I'm going to go, you fucking idiot. Like, I know more than Bill Belichick, right? But I'm going to disagree. And we need to do the same thing with our politicians and our policies and our leaders. We cannot simply buy into this tribalism that has seized our country. It cannot just be right versus left. It can't. We have to come together in the middle. We have to take the bits and pieces from each side and put them together in a cohesive plan for everybody. For everybody. And we have to stomp out the extremists on both sides. Do you think I agree with those fuckwads on the far right that carry signs at military funerals? Oh, God hates homos. No, I don't agree with them. And I don't agree with the people who are like, no nuclear power, it's not green enough. I'm sitting in the middle, and I hope you sit in the middle. Join me here. Please, like, subscribe. If this means anything to you, please, I appreciate any help that I can get. Let me know in the comments below. What can I do? What matters to you? I would love to know what matters to you. I've gotten a few comments, mostly negative. I don't really care. But I want to hear from the people like myself, purple people. People who want good ideas with good plans. Is that too much to ask for? Peace, y'all. Dollar bills. Copious out.